along the way. So just a little bit, tiny little bit about Go Girl Communications. I started Go Girl Communications back in 2011, and we are a content marketing company. So our job is really to help businesses effectively use the content they have, as well as create the content they might need. We always like to say that none of our clients ever worry about what they're putting on social media, what's on their website, or even when they send an email, because they know that all the content they're creating, using, and sharing is helping them achieve their business goals, which is something I will emphasize a lot of today. Just a little bit about our services. So we do a lot of different things, but I put them into 3 groups. Our first one is that we help people, usually entrepreneurs and startups. We help them set up their content. So we call them content builders. So we'll set up their social media platforms for them, give them a strategy and some content to get started. And then we also we do that with email, and we do that with website. And then sometimes we get people that are like, this is great, and thank you for setting it all up, but I don't want to do it. So will you do it for me? So then we implement all this strategy by creating ongoing content. And then the third thing that we have, and this is brand new, and matter of fact, you guys are the first people to hear about this outside of the little Go Girl bubble that we live in. We are launching a monthly content subscription service in May of 2022. So we're working on that. You'll hear more about it in April, but the first subscriptions will be available in May. Oh, and I just went backwards. You guys are on me. So why do you even need a social media strategy in the first place? Everyone thinks that social is, you're out, you see a great photo opportunity, you take a photo, you put it on your social, and it's very instantaneous. But the truth is, it's very strategic. And I'm going to use the Kardashians as my example. Do not judge me based on the Kardashian comment, but say what you want about the Kardashians. The way that we utilize social media, specifically the way we utilize Instagram, is really because of the Kardashians. They are the ones that kind of led the way in how we consume content on those channels. And if you ever think that they just randomly wake up in the morning and just think about, oh, let's just post this today. They don't. They're incredibly intentional about every single post. And when you start really paying attention to what they're posting, you'll notice that they're very intentional. There is always a purpose, for good or for bad, on why they are posting what they're posting. So when it comes to your social media, and this is the same for your individual personal platforms as well as your business platforms, you need to always have a purpose with everything you're trying to do. Now, there's some reasons for that. I keep having to move the people. I'm so sorry. But so having a strategy helps you expand your other marketing efforts. Do not think of social media as its own silo. It should be something that enhances all of your marketing efforts. It is a marketing channel. It is not in and of itself. It helps you build brand awareness. There is no better way to get your brand and expand your brand awareness outside of the physical circles that you work in. It's one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience. There is no better way than to be able to get on any of the platforms and have a one-on-one conversation with somebody immediately. And it helps attract buyers. And I say buyers, but this is true even if you are, we have a lot of nonprofit clients we work with. Social media is one of the best ways that they can attract donors to their organization, or that they can get volunteers to help them in some way. So there's so many reasons why you should use social media, but all of these reasons are why you need a strategy behind it. And that's what we're really going to talk about today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the overview of social media. So on the top of your worksheet, I just want you to think about this. If anybody wants to answer this out loud, they can. Think about what social media channels you use the most, and what do you think about the audience of that social media community? Like, what are they like?
We're going to hand out the worksheets right now.
I was jumping the gun on my worksheet. This is the early question. But think about what kind of channels that you use and what kind of community you think it is. Who do you think is on there with you? Are they all just like you? Do you think that they are different? If you use 2 different ones, do you feel like you are a different person in one than you are the other? And I always think of that when I think of like your TikTok versus your LinkedIn. Does anybody want to share what channels they spend the most time on?
Go ahead.
I would say I used to spend the most time on TikTok for sure.
And what do you think? Do you think that most people on TikTok are kind of like you?
I feel like there's a wide variety of people on there, but the content that I see is probably most likely people like me.
Oh, 100%. TikTok is the master of giving you serving up content that is you. Their algorithms are amazing. Anyone else? Does anyone use LinkedIn? Since you're all at various stages of college-ness, I highly recommend LinkedIn. Even if you're a freshman in college, putting together a really solid LinkedIn profile now is just and connecting with people. One of the greatest things for me is when my kids are a lot older. Two of them are already out of college. One's a freshman, and when the two that are out of college, when their friends from high school or college connect with me on LinkedIn, that is the most wonderful thing because they have great profiles. So this is next graphic. This is not my graphic. This came from HubSpot. I didn't create it, but I can't find anything that ever is better than this graphic to explain in a nutshell. So this gives you a little rundown of the different social media channels. So the first one is Facebook. Say what you want about Facebook, and it's declining numbers, but it still has 2.7 billion users. It still is a big dog. It is skewing a little older, and it continues to skew older throughout the ages, but it is the best for building relationships and building brand loyalty, especially in their groups. Facebook does a lot with their group pages. Their group pages seem to be a little bit less affected by algorithms. So if you can create a group and have those conversations in there, it really is amazing at building relationships. And Facebook still is one of the very best advertising tools. So if you're thinking of doing social advertising, they give you lots of different tools to use that's very cost effective for businesses. The next one is Twitter. Is there anybody, I'm just looking at the class, and raise your hand if you use Twitter. Anyone in the, okay, a few of you. Okay, Twitter is not one of the big dogs that people think about. People often forget about Twitter, but you know when everyone remembered Twitter? Remember last year when there was that brief moment where Facebook and Instagram went down? Twitter became the king again. So if you are going to be on Twitter, you kind of have to be intentional. It is not something, people don't go to your Twitter page to see what you tweeted out. It's very immediate. This is the only social media platform that is, the majority is men. So it skews very male. And it's very good for news articles and conversation. If you're going into public relations, Twitter is almost a must these days. It is a fantastic way to connect with sources in the media. It is a really great way to have those conversations and get your story for your company out. And now it has on the downside the 280 characters. As a writer, I actually love that because it makes you really get down to the nuts and bolts of what you're trying to say. And really that's good for anything you're writing about. Pinterest. Pinterest is one of these that people forget about, but it's still incredibly strong. There's a lot of people using it. It's the one that skews the most female. And it is not, people often think of it as an older generation, but I will say my daughter got married 2 years ago and she had she had Pinterest boards for wedding stuff and everyone was sharing. So it is a great way to do lead generation. If you're a visual business, look into Pinterest because it's a wonderful way to get people to see your product and then click and be connected to you immediately. YouTube is considered a social media platform and it is a big one. 2.3 billion users. Everybody's on YouTube. If you're like me, you don't know how to do something, you immediately YouTube it. That's actually a phrase we use in our household, like let's YouTube it. And you figure out how to do anything. It's great for brand awareness and lead generation. It's resource intensive. You really have to do a lot to make your videos really pop and people come back and watch you again on YouTube. LinkedIn, the one I think I know this is skewing. Look at the ages, 46 to 55. But I am saying if you are a freshman in college, please get a LinkedIn profile. And the picture you use should not probably be the same one you have on your Instagram profile. You might want to do something a little different, just, maybe a little, maybe not hanging out with all your friends. So this LinkedIn is a professional network. It is a great for networking. It is still a one-on-one combination. People reach out to us all the time through LinkedIn. We have students that reach out to us all the time. There was someone at another university that reached out to me last week because she knew somebody that was connected to me and she needed to interview a female entrepreneur for her last paper before she graduated. And that's how she found me. So utilize it. It's a great resource for looking for a job. It's a great resource if you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to recruit people to work for you. LinkedIn is a really great resource. Instagram is by far the most popular one we see right now. A lot of people on Instagram. It is another one with the billion users. It is a really great little age demographic, and they keep changing everything with Instagram. Now you can actually link from stories. So if you are a business and want to drive traffic directly to your website and you were frustrated because you can't hyperlink in the copy of Instagram, you can now do that right in your stories and get people right to your website. So it's a really great, we're not seeing any down with Instagram. And then the newest kid on the block is our TikTok. I love TikTok. So great. And I learned a lot of things from TikTok, so I'm not even making fun of it. TikTok is great. It helps you build relationships. It's super entertaining. But even with TikTok, you really do need a strategy behind it. Like, what's your purpose with it? And your purpose could be just to make people laugh or to show off this part of this side of me. That could be a purpose. But you need to really pay attention to all the different platforms and what they're used for. If there is a platform here that you do not use, when you start working with a brand or a company, before you create content or strategy for any of these platforms, make sure you yourself have been on it. So for us, like TikTok, a year ago, one of our clients wanted to launch a TikTok channel. And I had never been on TikTok. So I downloaded TikTok and I spent an entire week just being on TikTok. Because then you start to see, how do people use it? People use TikTok differently than they use Facebook. Your LinkedIn is different than your Twitter. So you need to at least be inside these communities and figure out how people are using them in order to build a good strategy. Did any of this surprise anybody? Is everybody like, yeah, I kind of knew that about all these channels? Is there any on here you guys do not use at all? Please don't say LinkedIn. That's going to be it. That's the first thing you guys are doing, is creating that LinkedIn profile. Okay, so all of those different channels. The greatest thing about social media, you don't have to be on all of them. You need to find where your audience is and then go there. So if your audience, we usually tell people if they're just starting out, find the 1 or 2 platforms you really want to be in and get really good at those platforms, and then move on to the rest of them. But before you can even do that, you do need to create some social media goals. So once you know your audience, and I mean really know your audience, do not get stuck on, my demographic is 26 to 35 women, or 55 to 65 plus. Like you need to really know your audience beyond demographics. What problem are they trying to solve, and can you solve it for them? Where do they get their information, and who else is influencing those purchase decisions? Most of us, when we make purchases, there is somebody else influencing it. If your target market is mom, kids are influencing her purchase decisions. Even when it comes to buying a car, there are great studies that show, like, when children get to a certain age, that is when moms start looking at SUVs and minivans. So that is influencing her purchase decision. So really, really get to know your audience. And then you need to set some real key performance indicators. And the biggest thing with social media, we see this all the time. There are things that we call vanity metrics. And the vanity metrics are things that you really, they don't really mean anything. Can you think of something in social media that people tout all the time, like, I have blah, 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 but really doesn't mean anything about them or their brand? Anything? How about the number of followers somebody has? Like, do you ever have people that are like, oh, they're so great, they've got 1.2 million followers? Followers can be considered a vanity metric because it might not matter how many followers you have. If your goal is to sell more stuff, then if you have 1 million followers and only 2 of them buy your stuff, that's not a really good metric to follow. It's great to say you have all those followers, but if it's not helping you achieve your business goals, then it doesn't matter how many followers. I would rather you have 10 followers and all of them buy your stuff than to have 1 million and only 2. So these are the typical KPIs that we see with clients. They're looking at reach, they're looking at engagement, they're looking for a return on investment, and they're looking for retention and loyalty. Now there's others, but these are the 4 real basic ones that we see the most. So when we think of reach, this is your brand awareness. This is where your follower count can become a non-vanity. Like, this is where it matters, like how many people are following you. You're also looking at impressions. You know, how much is your content even being seen? You can also measure how many times your brand or you personally are being mentioned. And you can also measure what we call share of voice. So what part of the conversation in the social atmosphere is your brand getting compared to your competitor? Now, when I mention all of these things, there are 1,000 different platforms that allow you to measure all this stuff. So you don't need to really worry about, how do I measure share of voice? You could literally Google share of voice measurement and you're going to get platforms that are going to pop up for you. Some of the most popular ones are Sprout Social, Hootsuite, both of those are big, Buffer. All of them have different tools that you can use to measure these. So that's if you're looking for reach. Your brand, you want to build your brand awareness. You're going to look at follower count, impressions, mentions, and share of voice. The next one is engagement. Are people engaging with the content? This is the one we as a content company look at the most. We want to see how many people are engaging with the content we're creating. So this is when your likes or favorites actually become a non-vanity metric. So how many people are liking and favoriting your content? How many people are commenting? How many people have been sharing and retweeting what you create? Look at your ratings and reviews. Do you have people giving you ratings and reviews? And then look at your inbound website links. Are you posting something on social and it is driving them directly to your website? Google Analytics is phenomenal with website analytics. It's free. You can pop it into almost the back end of any website, and it's going to tell you exactly who is coming to your website from which channel. This is also good if you're trying to figure out where should we spend the most energy on our social media channels. Should we spend all our time on TikTok? If our goal is to get more people to our website, then you can look and see exactly how that's working. This third one is return on investment. If you start working for a business and you need to defend your social media efforts, or you'd like to get more money for your social media efforts, you'd like to add someone to your staff, this is what you want to measure, and you want to show it to your boss for the C-suites, because this is what they're concerned about. Am I getting a good ROI on our social? And usually that boils down to lead generation. So of course you can look at direct sales revenue, especially if you have something that you are pushing, again, like your Instagram stories, where you can link right to it and you can show an increase in sales revenue when you post something. We just had a client just yesterday say that we posted something in the morning and they had sold 4 things before it even, I don't even know if it even posted for a good 5 minutes. Like, that was perfect, but they knew it. They got 4 things sold online instantly, and they could tell when we posted it. Lead conversions. So this is the leads that you're getting in. Your sales team will really, really love you if you give them quality leads. So make sure that the people, again, you've got to know where your people are, who's going to buy your stuff. So lead conversions are when you track things like if you have somebody download a free ebook, or you have them sign up for your newsletter, or whatever, those kinds of things can be lead conversion, and you can track how many people did this from social. Support costs per customer. This is really if you are in an industry where customer service is key and you have a lot of overall goal around customer service, you can actually track how many times were we able to support a customer through our social networks. And so they didn't have to come into the office or they didn't have to call in. You probably are saving the company time and money on that. This is where Twitter is king. Twitter is so good at customer service. And some of the best brands that are out there using Twitter, it's their customer service that people will talk about. Zappos, the shoe company, was one of the first to really step out into the space and use social for customer service. And you can also track the lifetime value of a client. What is it worth to keep a client for so long? And again, you will depend on what kind of goals you have as your business, but social can really help nurture that relationship all along the way. And the last one is retention and loyalty. You want to retain, this is for customer service and retention, reviews and ratings. You're going to measure those. Issues resolved. How many issues were you able to resolve through social media? Service level agreement, which simply means if somebody contacts you through your Facebook page, how long before you got back with them? Same thing with Instagram. Almost all the platforms have that. If somebody sends you a DM, it's going to tell you how long it took on your business pages to get back to them. Now, service level agreement is different than time to resolution, because that is actually, service level agreement just means, hey, it took me 10 minutes to get back saying, hey, we're going to check into that for you. Time to resolution is how long did it take me from the moment that customer said this was an issue to us being able to fix it. So you can actually measure that time frame. And then of course, customer satisfaction. How many people are talking great about you and sharing testimonials? Your customers are going to always be some of your greatest brand ambassadors. So get them talking about you, especially in these social spaces. Do you guys have any questions about the KPIs? I just ran through those super quick. Okay. Whatever KPIs you said, please make sure you revisit them every 6 to 12 months, because things change. Your business changes, your goals change, the world changes. During COVID, we actually would have our clients check their KPIs every quarter because things were just happening. And in some instances, honestly, every month we need to check our KPIs because things were changing so much that we had to make sure that everything was staying in place and that everything was still the goal we wanted it to be. All right, so if you know your audience, you got them, you know what goals you know what channels you're going to use, you know exactly what goals you're trying to achieve, but now you actually have to create content to help you reach your goals. And we like to do it very simple. We narrow it down to 5 things that we want our clients to always consider adding to their social mix. You want to educate people. And so think, what do you want them to learn? What is one thing you want them to learn? You want to entertain them. What entertains them? Think about your audience and what would entertain them. Number 3, you want to inspire them. Number 4, you want to inform them. And then 5 is convert. Now, inform and educate, people are always like, what's the difference between educate and inform? Educate is you want to actually teach them something you know. You want to kind of almost give away something for free, as we like to say. Inform is really something about your business. So it could be, hey, I want to inform them when our hours are, or I want to inform them we're launching a new product. So there's 2 different things to educate and inform. Now notice that convert is only one of these things. We see this a lot for businesses. They use their social platforms to sell. That's what they're for. And that could be a goal. I mean, we just talked about that. That for sure could be a goal. But the minute you're just trying to sell somebody all the time on your social channels, nobody's going to follow that. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like, this is Go Girls. This is our Instagram. And I just took a screenshot of our Instagram. So here just shows you how we even use it for our own. So this one, this pivot with Ross from Friends, is actually an inspire because we talk about it's okay to pivot. And if you read the copy, it's very inspirational. Inform is just informing people that we're getting ready to launch a new product. Educate, this one is we're talking about hashtags. So we're giving people information on what they need to know about how you create hashtags. We usually do our educate ones based on the number of questions we keep getting asked. Hashtags is always a number one. We have 2 entertains in a row simply because I screwed up and sent the wrong video on the wrong day. That's what happens in the world of social media. My social people are all over it. Like it could be as simple as a happy St. Patrick's Day. And then the entertain is actually a video and I'm lip syncing to Whitney Houston, which is awesome. And we use that too, because a lot of our clients, you know, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and startups. We work with a lot of female business owners. So this really ties into who our audience is. And then convert, we're asking something very specific. This is a lead generation post. So everyone can do this. Like you can just put it all out there. So you have different forms going at different times, different kind of content at any given moment, and it's going to engage with different people. But the key is you have your KPIs. So for us, brand awareness is key. So everything that we create, we want it to be shareable. We want it to be something that somebody's going to ask a question about, because we are really counting on our brand awareness, and the expansion of our reach and our impressions is a goal that we actually follow. All right, so now you guys get to do your very, very own. Are you excited? I can't see your faces enough to know, but I'm just going to assume that you all are. Like you are beyond excited to do this. So you have your handy dandy little worksheets, and you're going to start by really thinking about your own social media strategy. Now you can think of this in 2 ways. You can think of this as your personal social media, and I'm going to stop sharing because there's no reason for me to share when I do this. You can start using it for your personal. So think of your personal platforms. What's your goal? You can think of it for an organization that you work for, or you can create it for a business that you either work for, or maybe it's one you want to start. I know somebody mentioned they're majoring in entrepreneurship. Like think about the business you want to start. So the very first question is, think about your audience. And again, I want you to think beyond the demographics of age, even think beyond any of the key indicators you usually think of when you think of demographics. Think beyond demographics. Those are important, but they're not the end all be all. Where is this person? What are they doing right this minute? When you think of your audience person, what are they doing? And I know that seems crazy, but we actually think, as we work with a lot of clients, that moms are a key market to them. And when they think about when should I send an email, if they send it at 7 a.m., when the moms are getting kids off to school, when they're trying to get to work, all that, they're going to miss their target market. Their target market isn't reading an email at 7 a.m., but they may be reading it at 1 o'clock after the lunch hour. They may be reading it at 7 o'clock at night when the kids are in bed. So it's important to know little things that you think aren't important. Think about everything you want to know about your client. I don't know if any of you have had a class where you've had to create audience personas. Has anybody done that? Audience personas are the craziest thing to do, but they are so good. Like they're really, really good. They seem so ridiculous when you're doing them, but you will go back to them over and over again and figure out what this person really is. So think of your audience as a real live person. You can even give them a name. Okay, your second thing is, what social channels are you going to choose to use and why? And again, you don't have to use all of them. You don't have to just use the ones you love, because your audience may not be there. Like I love TikTok. I think it's amazing. My audience is not on TikTok, but I learn everything I need to know about life from TikTok. I've now convinced. Another question that we talked a little bit about, we didn't talk enough about frequency. How often are you going to post on that social media channel? Do you think that people can post too much? And as soon as I say that, every single person probably has one person or one brand in their head that they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. She posts way too much. Because something like Instagram, you can post a lot to stories and like people are used to that. But if you post on your feed of Instagram like 5 times a day, people are not going to be engaging with you. Okay, the third one is list those 3 of the social media KPIs that you're going to measure. So there was reach, there's engagement, there's return on investment, and then there's retention and loyalty. And what measurements are you going to look for in order to make sure you're reaching your goal? And I can go back to those if you guys want to see those. I should have put those all on one sheet now that I think about it. All right, once you have your goals set, so now you know your audience, you know what channels you're going to use and why you're using them, and you've set a couple of really good KPIs that you're going to measure to help you, and you know what you're going to measure in order to reach those goals. So let's think a little bit about your content. This is in the back side. Oh, no, it's probably not on the back side of your sheet. It's on the back side of mine, but I realized I printed mine out differently than yours.
We did double
so
too, so
okay.
It's all good.
I was just realizing that I didn't have the exact same printout that you had. All right, so the first one is educate. So think of one thing you want your audience to learn. And I do want you to think, even if you're thinking of a business or an organization for your overall plan, these are great questions to ask for your social profiles right now as individuals. Like, what do you want? If somebody goes to your Instagram page, what do you want them to learn about you? And then what would entertain them? What would people in your audience find super entertaining? And it can be entertaining like, haha, great. Or it can be just entertaining, something that's interesting, a book that you're reading, or in any other way. It doesn't have to necessarily ranking entertainment with funny. Ooh, a good way to entertain people on social media, all those quizzes, we all take them. You know, we all do those ridiculous quizzes. And then how can you inspire them? And a good way to think about this is to think about your audience again. And when you think about your audience, who is it that inspires them? You know, who is somebody, like for us, we often think of Sarah Blakely, who created Spanx. She is somebody that inspires a lot of our customers because she is a female entrepreneur, bootstrapped her way into a $1 billion company. And so a lot of times we will think about her and think about, okay, what could we pull quotes from her? Could we share a story that she shared? She sometimes has really great Instagram posts that we share on our Instagram or share with our stories. So think about your audience. If you get stuck on the inspire thing, think about who inspires them. Like, what is it? And if you think about what they're trying to achieve, that also can help you find something that's inspirational. The fourth question is, what do you need them to know? So we talked about educate. We talked about, I want them to learn this about me, but what do I need them to know about me? So if it's your personal and it's like your personal LinkedIn, you need them to know when you're graduating from college or what your major is or what your job objectives might be. So that's a need to know, not necessarily educating. That's a need to know. And your last one is, what do you want them to do? This is the convert, and this is the place where we find the most mistakes when it comes to content overall. There's never a really good call to action. Like, what is it you need them to, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to visit your website? Are you counting how many people visit your website? Is that a goal? Do you want them to sign up for your email? Do you want them to just share the information? That could be a goal of something you want them to do. Now, if I was there in person, I would pick on people to come up to talk about what they came together. Does anybody want to share? I know this is like a very short amount of time to create a social media content plan, but does anybody want to share just the snippet of their plan? Come on, one person. Nobody?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm like a marketing intern for a fashion app, and so I was just thinking like part of the education would mostly be like how the fashion industry can be improved and more sustainable.
Oh yeah. Did you say you're creating an app?
I'm interning.
Oh, wonderful. And that's I love that whole idea of like, this is how this could improve this. So like, if you think of something like that, how can you, by being a part of your company, by buying your product, participating in your service, how is it improving an industry that people are frustrated with? Maybe it's something inside the fashion industry that's super frustrating. This app is going to fix that. That's a great one. Anyone else want to share anything from their plan? Okay, I should have you all turn them in to me. I feel like I'm teaching a class now. So the last thing I want to do, I'm going to share my screen because I know again, you can use this for personal as well as professional. Creating this kind of strategy and just keeping this in mind at all times will really help you hone in on the kind of content you need to create, how often you need to create it, and all of the other pieces that go with social media. The most important thing about social media, though, is it is social. You can't just create content and put it out there and then it sticks. You have to actually participate in it. So don't focus on the media part, focus on the social. If you're going to have an Instagram page, you should be in that Instagram page and commenting on people. If people comment on your stuff, you should at least heart it, like just participate in the back and forth of it. So I'm going to share my screen one last time. Oops, hold on. Maybe I'm not sharing my screen one last time. It's not doing that, right? Okay. So before, I just want to talk about a couple of things. The first thing I want you to do is to actually evaluate your current social media channels. And I have a little box at the very bottom. If someone were to look at your social media channels right now, do you think that they represent who you are as a person? And the reason this is so important is because your social media channels give you the opportunity to actually narrate your own story that people don't have. If you're getting ready to apply for a scholarship, you're getting ready to go to grad school, you're getting ready to get a job, whatever those things are, somebody inside that organization can go and find you on social media. They can find you online. If you think they can't, if you think I've locked down all my channels, no way that picture of me at that party is out there anywhere. It is out there. I have watched people find the most obscure things for people if they really dig deep enough. And some companies really do dig. They have platforms now that they can crawl the web to find things on candidates. So you want to make sure that whatever is out there in your social media channel, that it looks like you. So, because you don't have a second chance. If somebody goes to your Twitter account and can see everything you've tweeted, and it's not really representative of who you are as a person, they may make that decision about you before you even walk in their office. You don't get a chance to defend it. They may have already made that decision about you. Now, you would hope that they wouldn't. And most of them try not to. I was just in a seminar last week that actually said that if you're hiring for people, do not go on their personal social media channels. You don't need to know their let's leave that be. And I think that's great, but I don't see that necessarily always happening. So just look at your social media channels and make sure they actually represent who you are as a person. That doesn't mean they need to be professional and buttoned up. That doesn't mean you can't have the photos of your friends or the great spring break trip you guys went on. Like, that's great. People want to, that's wonderful. But just make sure that it actually represents who you are as a person. And I always tell people to think of these 4 questions before you post anything. And this goes for posting for an organization or posting for yourself personally. First thing is, am I seeking approval? Excuse me. Am I posting this because I want people to like it? Like, I want them to think how cool I am? Or am I posting it because I think it's actually, people want to see the picture of a puppy because it makes them happy, not because I want them to be jealous because they don't have a puppy and I do. Am I feeling frustrated, sad, or angry? If you are upset about something, please close your laptop and do not post anything anywhere. And I think you could probably do that with texting. Just don't. Give it some time, rest it up before you send a note. I mean, this has happened before where people have sent horrible posts because they're angry and they don't mean them, and then they're deleted. But again, somebody saw them and now it's something, it turns into something it shouldn't be. So if you're feeling any of those emotions, close the laptop, put down the phone, walk away. Is this something I would say in person? If you would never say this to somebody in person, please do not put it on your social media channels. You should be able to defend whatever it is you have. And then the final one, and I think this is really super important, is this a moment? And what I mean by that is that we get really caught up in the idea of, this is going to look so great on my Instagram page, or this is going to make a real, we spend an entire day working out a TikTok dance, or all of these things. And then we miss the moment of just being wherever we are with whoever we are. I use the great example of a couple of years ago. I was at a high school football game and there was a group of cheerleaders and they spent 20 whole minutes reposing themselves in different ways so everybody liked the picture that they were taking. And I timed it because I thought it was so crazy that they just wasted 20 minutes of this high school moment because they wanted to have a perfect picture for their Instagram. So if you're doing something that is amazing, sure, take a picture of the moment and then let it go, but don't make it be the whole moment. Don't take away from what's really going on just because you want a good picture. And that goes for professional as well as personal. If you are hosting an event for your organization or your business, do not just spend the entire time looking for the perfect photos or captions for your social media. Spend some time actually engaging in that moment without technology. And you're going to get a lot more out of that. And that is it, folks. I have all my information. I know that I'm sure Courtney can get you this. Email LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love that. Instagram is the one we use the most, but we also are on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter very much. So I will say that is the one I don't use as often as I probably should. Does anybody have any questions? I think we have like 10 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there's.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So, like those platforms, like those data analytic platforms, you can also like schedule your posts and stuff like Hootsuite and things like that. I'm not sure if your company uses one for your own clients, but like, do you recommend a certain one if you're going to use it?
We use, it depends on the clients we're working with, but we use Hootsuite and we use Sprout Social, and we've also used Buffer for all of those. And you can schedule, they are great time savers though. So, you can get in there, you can schedule your posts for the whole week. Sometimes you can schedule them for the whole month. My only advice with that is be sure that that doesn't take away from you getting inside the platforms and actually engaging with your audience. Because sometimes it's really great on a Monday morning to schedule all your posts for the week. And then you forget, oh shoot, I should probably like jump in there and see if people have commented or if they've mentioned me. So make sure if you're using those scheduling platforms that you carve out some time during the week, even if it's just 10 minutes, that I'm going to check my social media channels 10 minutes every day. just to make sure you don't miss anything. But they're great. They are really great. I will say that from an analytics perspective, Hootsuite is really good. They give you very good analytics as to how well your content is working. And if they do it, you can create PDFs that are already, so they do a really good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Great question. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite experiences with a client or like just within your career?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Just in social media or just in general?
I like social media or in general, both work.
I think my very favorite experience is when we have, well, two different things. One, we had a client that was just launching and they had zero engagement on social and they were terrified of social. They didn't want to use it. And we were able to work with them. So not only did they start getting engagement and they started making sales off of social, but they actually really enjoyed it. And they started getting super creative with what they could do, which I love seeing that. I love when I watch other people do it. And the other one is anytime we have a client, because we ask our clients to do, we're all about engagement. I said that's one thing we really do follow a lot with our clients. So if we're creating content for you, we will ask you to do some crazy stuff. Like we'll say, hey, this would make it real, or this would make a great story. Let's do a video. So we love when we have a client that's willing to just do whatever we say. So the most recent one, we have a client in Chicago and she is it's a health and fitness company. And we thought, what would be great on St. Patrick's Day is if we have her with her gear and she's walking by the river as it's turning green, when they turn the river in Chicago green. And so she did it. Like she did, and she's 76 years old and she has this brand and I thought she would totally tell us she didn't want to do it. And she was like, oh, 100%. She took a video of herself walking by the river and she did it beautifully. And then she sent it to us to turn it into a reel for her on St. Patrick's Day. So it was beautiful. So I think any of those experiences where I'm able to like really watch the clients get even more creative in the space is really, really great. And we get to do a lot of fun stuff. We get to meet fun people and do fun things, but really it's about when the client gets just as creative and excited about it as we do. Anyone else?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for coming and covering
Well, thanks.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks for having me. And seriously, if you reach out, I will respond. So email me, connect with me on social media. If you have any questions, let me know. Also, I always say this to college students, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I know I keep harping LinkedIn, I just can't stop it. If you connect with me on LinkedIn and you look at all my connections, if there's anyone you want to be connected to, let me know. I will say I don't know all of my LinkedIn connections that well, but if I do, I will be more than happy to make that connection for you. So for sure, take advantage of that.